Brothers and sisters, good evening. It's a pleasure to be with all of you, and thanks a lot for joining in. I've taken I've muted you all, so please feel free to unmute yourself when you want to express yourself, ask a question, share a feedback, okay, or raise a point. It's a pleasure. This is our third session, and we've been growing in strength, which is not a very positive thing because this is a forum to support job seekers. In fact, I remember an advice given by a very senior, a very wise social activist. He asked me this question: what is the difference between a profit-seeking organization and a social organization? And I didn't quite know the answer that he was looking for. And then he told me the objective of a private seeking organization is to go on and on. So after me, my kids, after them, their kids, and it goes on till eternity. That's the whole objective. That's the mission. That's the niya. While for a social organization, the objective is to cease to exist as soon as possible. So I was asking him, what do you mean? He said, well, if you're running an organization to alleviate poverty, then your objective would be to make sure that people are lifted from the dismal state of affairs as soon as possible, so that after a while you keep looking out for people who are poor, you keep looking out for people who don't have food, and you don't find any. So that's the noble purpose of a social organization. So we hope and pray that togetherness doesn't go on forever. We should be able to close this small, humble gathering of like-minded professionals who are looking for development in their careers and also looking for opportunities to serve others. And we hope we would be able to close down as soon as possible. We were quite active on WhatsApp, but when the numbers grew, we decided to migrate onto Telegram. And in Telegram, I believe we have around 440 members as of now. For those who are new to the forum today, let me quickly explain what the objective is. Well, the objective is to support job seekers. We know what's happening around. There are a lot of brothers and sisters looking for opportunities. So how do we support job seekers? Well, we keep posting genuine job ads. We conduct sessions like these on how to make your CV ATS compliant, how to attend interviews, how to use LinkedIn effectively. And we are lucky to have the patronage of industry experts. Today we have two. Of course, I'll introduce them in detail. My co-hosts will introduce them in detail. So we have them coming in and sharing their valuable experience and tips, which will definitely help job seekers streamline their activities and make sure that the job search is done more effectively. But above all, the objective of this forum is to provide a community where you look around and see, I'm not the only person who's going through this grind, and we help each other, we support each other, we motivate each other. We ran a survey last month, and we found that on an average, people are taking close to 7 months, 7.2 months to get placed. And we had around 128 respondents who got jobs. So those of you who have just started, please, may you get jobs as soon as possible, but then understand that this might not be a short sprint, it might be a marathon. So take a deep breath, conserve your energy, be patient, and do what it takes to be placed as soon as possible. For those who have been in the race for long, please understand that light is there at the end of the tunnel, and it could be just around the corner. Based on the suggestion we had from the admin team, we ran a short poll again in the group, asking people, do you have any good news to share with us? Have you received any calls from interviewers? Did you get any calls from recruiters? And I have the data here. 6 of us got calls from recruiters, 5 got interviews, and 3 got jobs. And the best thing is, 2 of our members have bitten the entrepreneurial urge, and they've started something on their own as well. So congrats to all those who have good news to share with us, and congrats to all those who will definitely come back with good news very soon. It's all about taking the right effort. It's all about being determined. It's all about showing your grit and doing the right things. So God bless you all. The agenda for today, we have an introduction. That's what's going on right now. My name is Dr. Sangeeth Ibrahim. It's a pleasure to be with you. And then we've got 2 expert speakers. to speak on job opportunities in the respective domains. We have Mr. Mohammed Riaz and Mr. Nishad Azim. I warmly welcome you. Busy day, a lot of things in your schedule, but you've decided to spare your valuable time to serve those in need. May God bless you. And we are really, really honored and lucky to have you in our midst. Mr. Mohammed Riaz is a sales consultant and a trainer with over 21 years of experience working in multinational companies around the world. A very impressive profile. Thank you, Brother Riaz. Thanks a lot for joining us. And Mr. Nishad is Azim. I had to literally pause a couple of times before reading his profile. Such an illustrious profile, an entrepreneur and a professional with over 20 plus years of experience in the construction industry, and the founder of the Coastal Group as well. Brother Nishad, thank you. It's an honor to have you with us. My co-host will definitely be introducing you in detail when they start the interviewing you. So today I'll be joined by Sister Reiza, who's a journalist and entrepreneur and a humanist, in particular, somebody who's been doing a lot of good work to support job seekers. And also Brother Taha Muhammad Abdul Karim, who's a business leader, a consultant, a speaker, and a Harvard Business School alumnus as well. Honored, sir. Thank you for being with us. And of course, Sister Shekha, who's a psychologist, a seasoned HR professional as well. And again, thanks to all our fellow admins for being here with us. Let me not take you by name particularly. You're there supporting us all throughout. Yeah. So we are live on YouTube as well. The link has been posted in the chat box. So those who cannot join us on Zoom can see us live on YouTube. We wanted this meeting to be exclusive so that we could control it more effectively. So coming up is the first session where we explore job opportunities in the sales industry. And to take it forward, I would request my co-host, fellow administrator, and sister, Ms. Reiza Absel. Please, sister, all yours.
Thank you, Dr. Sangeeth. Hello, everyone. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Mohammed Riaz. He's a seasoned sales professional, like Dr. Sangeeth mentioned. He has over 21 years of experience in the Middle East and Africa region. And out of these 21 years, for 19 years, he was with an MNC called Wrigley. He's a passionate person about, he's really passionate about sales systems, people and talent, organizational culture, and is absolutely committed to delivering the best customer care. So without further ado, let's hear it from him on how to secure a job in the sales sector. So Mr. Mohammed Riaz, could you firstly tell us, in the current scenario, what are the opportunities in the sales sector like? Like, have they changed? Are there any changes in demand? Can you tell us more?
Okay, I just unmuted myself. It's a good opening question, actually, because, unlike any other management functional areas, sales has a specialty. Why that specialty is that normally an organization, a departmental organization structure would be decided based on the size of the business and the number of people. While in sales, they are also there, but there are more factors which dictates the size of the organization and the organization structure. So the job opportunities would depend on that organization structure. So what are those basic structures? One is the trade structure itself, which market this company is operating in. Second, the portfolio. What are the products which they are selling? And then thirdly, what is the route to market they are intending to place in that market? So based on that, the entire organization, the entire organization would be built based on these three factors. Even if, so you can imagine that, if an organization is starting their distribution in a market, they from the beginning itself, despite the size of business, they would start with a certain set of organization structure. So this is point number one. Secondly, with the advent of COVID, because we have been going through a different type of different style of living, and this has caused a big impact on the shopper behavior. How people shop their daily necessities. How do they go for shopping? What are the frequencies? It has completely changed over the last 9 months or so. So many of the industry experts are, saying to the industry that you need to keep very close watch on the shift in shopper behavior, and we are yet to know which of these behavior are going to stay post-COVID era. This is very important to know that how the trade will evolve over a period of time after the post-COVID, after the COVID session. And then this will impact, this will also have an impact on how people are buying. So like online shopping is becoming very important. We cannot forget that. And the change in shopper behavior. Combining these two will have a bigger impact how the jobs will look like in the very near future. This is point number 2. And point number 3 is many organizations are, in the form of a transformation, how they are operating in a market. So we used to say sales is a separate department, marketing is a separate department. But there is a tendency at this time, globally, many organizations are combining both of them, the sales function and the marketing function, and also the function of category, which used to function as a bridge between sales and marketing. They're combining all the three together to form a demand organization. Yeah, so these are the 3 major changes which is at the moment, going to affect the job market as we speak, as well as in the near future. So if you are looking for a career in sales, make sure that you are aware of these 3 factors. One is which market, what is the trade structure in that market, what is going to be the organization structure, and what is the route to market of this particular company, what is the portfolio which they are selling into the market. That is point number 1. Secondly, it is the shopper behavior and evolution of e-shopping or e-commerce. And thirdly, the combining of sales and marketing function into one as the demand organization. So these are the factors. Anyone who is seeking a job from the beginning of their career, or somebody who is in their mid-career, so this is a good time to make a internal reflection. Where do I stand in terms of as the market is evolving? Where do I stand in terms of my competencies, skills, and behaviors? So where do I need a gap filling if there is any to be required?
Right. In terms of buyer behavior, you just mentioned about how a lot of people have moved on to online shopping, for example. Do you think that is a trend that's going to stay? And do you think that will again change the definition of the kind of salesperson that we're looking at?
Well, this has to be answered in 2 different dimensions. One is that, as you mentioned, there is a big increase in online shopping. There is no doubt about it. Because people, because of the COVID situation, people are going.
I'm sorry. You'll have to unmute yourself, Brother Riaz.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Sometimes we have to mute all because there's noise in the background. In case the speaker gets muted, our apologies. Please do unmute yourself. Yeah.
Okay. So I started answering this question as it has to be looked at in 2 different perspectives. One is that there is a shopper behavior change, yeah, and because of the COVID, people are moving into the online shopping. which is the convenient form. You can sit at home and order your stuff. And there are several platforms where you can get your daily stuff. However, we don't see, I mean, some of the experts who are working in this field mentioned that we don't see a significant increase, or no, I would reframe it as there is a significant increase in the percentage of people who are actually before COVID. Now it has become 10 to 12%. So that's a very significant increase, but still it is only 12% of the total market. Apart for looking at China, which is like 50-60% of the total market is happening through e-commerce. Here in this region, in the Middle East region, we are still seeing at 11 to or 10 to 12% of the total market is happening through e-commerce. So this is one side. On the other side, when you look at sales as a career itself, you have to look at. You will be seeing two different elements of places where a sales career can be built. Because you imagine where a product starts from and before it ends in the hands of the consumer. It starts with the manufacturer, and most of the cases, the manufacturer or the appointed distributor sells it to the distributor, sells it to the retailer. And from the retailer, we buy it. So for example, a chocolate company or a juice company, they it to Lulu, and the consumer thing is happening. One is what we call the trade, where the manufacturer or the distributor selling it to the retailer, which we call it as trade selling.
I think there's a lag in the video, right? Is it only for me or?
No,
There was a little.
Yeah.
Okay,
there was a little lag.
Back. Yeah, Mr. Riaz is back.
Okay, I think I got disconnected.
Okay, so if I may ask you, you being a seasoned sales professional, if you were to hire someone in the sales section for yourself, what kind of attributes would you look at the person? Personality traits, attributes, what would you like to have in a salesperson?
It depends. It depends on which type of which type of organization you have in one point, and then looking at what level of the trade you are playing in. Yeah. So if we elaborate slightly on the trade selling part, trade selling is where you are dealing with a buyer or a customer who wants to sell the product to somebody else. So this type of customers who are your buyers, they are looking for something, a solution which will generate their profit. Yeah, so their priorities or their requirements are different. While in a retail thing, in a retail section, the shoppers or the consumers, what they are looking for is something to satisfy their needs. So this makes a big difference between the motives or the priorities of two types of customers. So then when you want to type of, one is a customer, one is a shopper, you are looking at different type of people who can actually satisfy those needs. So here I need you to take it to a different level of discussion, if you allow me. Selling career can be in 2 or 3 different ways. For example, there are several roles in sales profession which are facing the customer. Yeah, you are dealing with the customer, you are talking to him, you are you are making that transactions with him, and you make that trade. The second part is you are not dealing with the customer directly, but you are behind the scenes doing the analysis, doing the designing, making sure that all these required items are procured on time, all these kind of jobs. So when you look at the job in two different sides, one is a performing job. You are performing in front of or with the customers. The second part is a science part of the job. So my personal classification is one is a performing job, which is called the art side of selling. The second is the scientific side of selling, which is the science side of job. So if anyone is looking for a job in selling, the first question they should ask themselves is that, are you an artist or you are a scientist? The skills required are totally different, because one is you are handling your customers in the art side. So do you want to do that art side? Because it takes different type of skills, whether you are managing your customers. The customers can be from anywhere, a grocery owner or a optical shop owner or electrical shop owner, or a buyer from Lulu, or a commercial director of Carrefour. Anyone can be your customer. So you need that skills to manage or to make that transaction happening with him. On the other side, you are not the science side in a library or in a laboratory, doing all these experiments, playing with the data, trying to understand the trends, what are the insights coming out of those trends. This is what you develop into actionable insights, and then these actionable insights are passed on to the performing team. Guys, look at this. This is something which you can act on, and then come up with a project together. So this is how a job is performed in selling. And then another part of it is I would call it as a challenge, because I have done my MBA from University of Kerala, from TKM Institute of Management. That was in 95, 97. But then, I didn't have a good exposure into selling as a career itself. What are the roles available? What kind of jobs are done in a sales function? And there was even, no curriculum or something which, really talks about what is selling, and how you can, what are the arts and science of selling, all this kind of stuff. And looking at it, Kerala being a consumer state, as well as when you look at the Indian community or Asian community who are living and working in the Middle East, majority of them, I would say like 70–80% of them are in the profession of selling, whether they are in the trade selling or in the retail selling, or doing trading, owning trading companies, or all this kind of stuff. But none of them is, or maybe very lucky few, like 15–20% are getting a proper training from their seniors, or from the training programs which are available from their organizations. I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, you did splendidly. In fact, very interesting viewpoint, artist and a scientist. Just out of curiosity, what do you consider yourself leaning towards, as an artist or a scientist?
For myself, yeah, actually, that's a very good question. I started in selling as an artist.
Okay.
But me being a soft-spoken and an introvert, initially it was difficult for me, because I was given the impression by my colleagues or my seniors in the organization that if you want to be successful in selling, you have to be a very talkative person, very powerful, very passionate, and this and that. But then so it was my that negative thought came to my mind. But then when I went to the market, because I started my career by selling, when I went to the market, people preferred more like a conversationist or a consultant rather than who is bombarding the customers with their ideas and features and benefits of the product. So I tried to do myself to be a good listener and asking the right questions at the right time. And then, I was able to understand their motives, what are their needs and their feelings, and their, what are the interesting factors which will make them, make them happy to have a connection with me or have a business relationship with me. So that actually drove me to big success. And that earned me like a couple of promotions as well in the early stages of my career. And then, so in that case, I was an artist in terms of, was dealing with the customers. And then when I moved on to managing people and managing distributors and managing key accounts in Eastern province of Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, then things started falling a little bit, because when I was exposed to a system implementation, I was leading our business development manager at that time. I was helping business development manager at that time to lead the implementation of systems, sales automation systems in Saudi Arabia. That actually caught caught me like a storm. And then I realized, okay, I can be a good artist, but I enjoy the scientific part more, where I can contribute more. And then, suddenly I switched to the scientific side of sales. And that's as an advice to the listeners as well. Like, if you are finding what is making you more happy, take the risk to switch sides, okay, from the art side to the science side, or from the science side to the art side. Whatever suits you, go for it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Also, can you tell us anything about certifications or trainings that a salesperson can take for job advancement?
Yes, definitely. In the beginning, in between, I mentioned about it. So when somebody is starting a career in selling, you need to have a basic understanding of the selling process itself. What are the psychological aspects of the act of selling itself? Then you need to have a clear understanding of the portfolio of the company which you want to work for. And the trade in which the company is operating, what are the key customers in that trade, and all those similar information related to your market. And then, unfortunately enough, so as I mentioned, there is no school or college curriculum which teaches the selling techniques or basic selling skills. While majority of Keralites or the Asians who are working in Middle East, they don't get this kind of an education about the basic selling skills. However, there is a human nature for selling yourself. Like you have an idea, you want to pass it on to somebody and get the benefit out of it. So this exchange of your idea or your service or your product for a consideration is what is selling is. And then unfortunately, there are no kind of curriculum or kind of institutions or certifications available for the basic selling part. That is the basic selling part. Now coming to the second part of it, which is the available courses and certifications. It all happens. It all starts at a certain medium level or so, because these type of courses which are available on offer are slightly expensive. I'm not sure how far people can afford to do that. Yeah. One is the negotiation certification given by a UK-based company called the GAP Partnership, GAP, GAP. GAP Partnership, they are the ultimate in, when it comes to negotiation. So a negotiation competency is required for a sales professional who is managing key accounts. Key accounts like Carrefour or Lulu's or Coop's and Spinneys like that. So for them, a negotiation skill, negotiation competency is mandatory because you are dealing with a very high, a customer with a very high, negotiation power. So you need that competency to deal with them. Second, related to courses like, market or category and market analytical courses. Programs which are offered by Nielsen, for example. Nielsen offers such programs, and you can get some certifications as well. Then category and shopper analytics programs. So these kind of programs are already available. However, my recommendation would be like, you always should take a 60-20-20 approach. I will explain what is the 60, 20, and 20. We all know that we learn much faster and much effectively when we are doing something. Yeah. So if you want to learn something, try to do it by yourself and learn from it. So that is the 60% part of it. And then secondly, the 20 is there are a lot of expert people out there. Yeah. So my recommendation is you build your connection, talk to them, ask questions to extract their experiences in terms of what is that subject which you want to know more. And then the 20% is where, you go for certifications, training programs, e-learnings, or read a book related to that subject. So I wouldn't put too much of emphasis on the attending expensive trainings and stuff like that, because it contributes only 20% of your total development program. But the main part of your learning and development happens when you are actually doing something. So this is something which can be applied for anyone who is trying to develop a specific skill or competence for themselves. And if you are already working in an organization and looking for a promotion or a development for yourself, something, then again, you take that 60-20-20 approach. You put yourself or make yourself available for a project which you want to learn something on. For example, you are in sales, you are in key account management, and you want to learn something more about category management. So make yourself available to do a project with the category management team so that you get an opportunity to learn out. So most of the organizations would welcome that because you are taking that initiative and putting yourself available. You're taking additional responsibility to help the team. At the same time, you're able to learn yourself as well. So that's the recommendation. And then job seekers, on the other hand, so you don't have, you're not part of an organization, but you are seeking jobs. My recommendation would be to, make a thorough research of the organization where you want to join. Look at their websites, check what are the products they are selling, what is the total portfolio, and you get out into the market. Go into different type of stores, look which type of outlets these products are available in, how they are displayed, how they are distributed, is it in full, and this kind of information, and what are the type of promotions they are using, and what type of planograms or what type of arrangements they have done. These kind of questions you can ask yourself and probably make a small project out of it. Before you go into the interview, go with this and write down some of your recommendations as well. Yeah. So this is something like most of the recruiters would love to see. Okay, this guy has made such a beautiful research in depth. And not only that, he has taken the effort to go into the stores and find out what kind of selling strategy they have implemented in the market. My tip would be, like, if you want to do such kind of a survey, you can do, you can do 10 stores survey where you have two big supermarkets, similar Sunrise and similar type of stores, and then 5 groceries where you would find, out of the 10, 50% is your lower trade or general trade customers, 30% is self-service, and the 40% is, no, 20% is your modern trade outlets, which would be a representation of a total market in the Middle East region. So, conclusion, courses and certifications, unfortunately, not many are available, but you can always search in Google or YouTube for different opportunities available. But however, I would not recommend people to go for a course which is like very expensive, relatively very expensive for an individual to afford. Even if you are deciding to go for a certification program in sales specifically, make sure you are reading the reviews and to get some opinions from those who are in the field for quite a long time into that.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Mr. Mohammed Riaz. Thanks for joining us today and for sharing your wonderful insights. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Reza. I think well-moderated session, and Brother Riaz, mashallah, valuable insights. We would have loved to go on and on to hear a lot of useful information, practical information from you. And we look forward to having you again in our subsequent sessions. The reason why we particularly focused on sales and construction is we had conducted a survey, and we understood that most of the people in our group were looking for jobs in these two domains. Yeah. So thanks a lot for joining us, and thank you, Sister Reza. Passing on, we're all quite eagerly waiting to hear from Brother Nishad, again, who comes with a wealth of information, wealth of experience and competence. So passing the mic on to Brother Taha Muhammad Abdul Karim. Please, brother.
Good evening, everyone. This is Taha here from Qatar. I have the pleasure of introducing as well as interacting with my good friend, Mr. Nishad Asim, who is the founder and owner of Coastal Group here in Qatar. He has lived all his life in GCC, in Kuwait and then in Qatar. So it's a pleasure and to introduce Mr. Nishad, because once we are talking about construction industry, I think he would be one of the most ideal persons who we can get to share his experiences, because he is one professional who transformed into a business owner from the construction industry. He started as an employee with oil and gas sector in Occidental Petroleum in Qatar, as well as Person Engineering, then started his own business ventures, and he has been continuously learning and improving and upgrading himself, and created one of the benchmark companies and business venture here in Qatar. About Coastal, when we talk about Qatar for last 10 years, people always talk about World Cup. So when we are talking about World Cup, one name which we will hear in Qatar is Coastal, because Coastal is the company which is providing the seats for World Cup stadiums in Qatar. And usually we talk about companies in Qatar who are using the technology or infrastructure, but no local manufacturing. Usually people use the services and just buy things and make it done here. But Coastal has pioneered in making things locally manufactured in Qatar, and so this is one initiative which Mr. Nishad and his company has taken forward. And he's a continuous learner as well. A BTech holder in civil engineering, did his MSc in project management, did his executive MBA in from HEC, Paris, and he's still continuing with his managerial education from Harvard Business School. So a continuous learner, entrepreneur, and a person who is always willing to support others who are looking for a job. I start my discussion with Nishad Asim with the first point. In the construction industry, what do you think are the classification of jobs available to the candidates, which, the areas which you as a businessman, as a business owner who is looking forward to?
Thank you, Taha, for that wonderful introduction, and I'm really happy to share the stage with all you wonderful people. So the construction industry as such is huge. It's not, it has it's got a huge spectrum of areas, right from sectors, from you have oil sector, you have infrastructure, you have residential construction, you have towers. So that's on one side. Then within that itself, you have different disciplines. You have mechanical, you have civil, you have electrical, MEP. So it's a huge spectrum of specialities that you would look for in the construction sector. So depending on which sector you're looking at and where the growth happens, that's where the demand is created. So right now, you can see that the construction sector is very sensitive, the economics of a particular country. And this part of the world is very sensitive to the oil prices. So the oil economy drives the construction sector. And you will find that anytime the economy picks up, the construction sector is the first to pick up. And then when the economy slides down, the construction sector is first to slide down. And also it is very connected with the oil sector, that you have a lag between oil price increase about 6 to a year before the construction picks up. And then again, similarly, when it goes down, there is always a lag. So depending on which time or which phase of the country or which sector you are in, the demand is created, and it keeps changing. So for now, if because of the COVID situations, many of the economy is affected, and automatically the construction sector is the first to be impacted, and that's why you see a huge downturn in investments in the construction sector. So if you take for Qatar, for example, now the main project that we have is related to the oil sector. Oil sector is coming in maybe in 2 years, and then currently with the football and the FIFA. So in terms of different sectors of the jobs, you have right from the site supervisor level to an engineer level, project engineer, project manager. That is in terms of the construction phase. And then you have on the back end support in terms of you have procurement, you have cost engineers, you have contracts engineers. So there is a huge spectrum of specialities that you would have in the construction sector.
Thanks, Mr. Nishad, for giving the insight. But one thing which, obviously during our conversations before also was about the competencies which we look for. One paradox which we say is people always look for the right jobs, and always the employers look for the right candidate. So from a employer point of view, as a business owner, what are the competencies that you are looking for generally when you are hiring a person, so that our people would be able to understand?
Yes. So when you are typically looking for a position or a candidate, you're sieving through hundreds of CVs, right? So what stands out? What makes you different from the rest of the CVs? That's one of the key things you look for. And construction, of course, it's a very dynamic and very aggressive sector. You have changes happening on a day-to-day basis. You are not working in a bubble. You're always coordinating with different disciplines, and site conditions change. So sometimes we say that construction sector is like a war zone. Each day new things come up. So the ability to stand on your feet and the ability to to think and come up with solutions and problems for whatever problems you face, that is one of the key things. And also being able to manage risk and planning ahead. So if you are in a construction sector, there are certain things that are totally unforeseen. So we have what is called as contingencies, right? We say the known unknowns and the unknown unknowns. So you can expect that any of the known unknowns will happen. So somebody who is prepared to be able to manage the situation that as they pop up during the construction phase and be able to stand on the feet and resolve the problems is the kind of people we're looking for. And then we also look for people who are able to give examples of situations where they excelled, or how they differentiated themselves or went over and beyond the call of duty. So you have somebody who comes and says, okay, I'm a civil engineer or a mechanical engineer. That you're good, that's fine, but there are hundreds like you. What makes you different? Give me an example where you stood out, or you went over and beyond your call of duty and you differentiated yourself. These are the things you would ask for. And then if the candidate says that I had this situation where on this particular project and this happened and this is how I overcame the problem and this is how I was able to catch the schedule, or we had this thing that happened and then I was able to accelerate the project and complete it ahead of schedule or below budget. These are the things that we look for. So we want candidates who excel, who stand out, who takes initiative, who are aggressive, and who are go-getters, not somebody who's passive and stand by and wait things to happen.
So to summarize, if I understood you correctly, you are looking forward to more than the qualifications. You are looking forward to those candidates who will see the how part, how they can do things better and how they stand out with a competency-based interviewing type of understanding how well they will differentiate themselves from the others. Thanks for sharing. I'm sure that this will be a this will help the candidates who are looking for jobs as well. And
as we say, sorry, as we say, we say the certificate, gets you into the door, but what you are and how you apply your knowledge is what gets you, further. So your qualification or your piece of paper is just a ticket to let you through the door. But then after that, there are many other competencies and skill sets that you need to go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Nishad, and that's where I want to ask the next thing. Yes, you said for people to reach to the door or to go to the next level, certifications and or training or upgradation would be important. You are one person who is an example for that. You have been doing all your life. So I would like to hear from you what you look forward to in candidates or your employees, how they you want to see them upgrade themselves.
Yes. So I take my own example. So and this I see between among most of our young candidates or young engineers or young professionals, that you feel that once you finished your degree or your course, or you become an engineer and that's it, you have reached, you have done, you're there. And when I did my master's, one of the biggest learning I had was how much I did not know. Right. So there was one stage when I thought that I was already an engineer and I'm pretty much made it. And then when I did my master's, I realized that there is so much information, so much knowledge out there. And that made me realize that how little I knew. So this is, your competencies, your knowledge is like a, if you are in a race, you're racing a car, it's like your engine. Yeah. You want to have the maximum horsepower on your engine so that you can win the race. So your competencies and your knowledge is what gets you across and it puts you ahead of your competition. So consistent improvement or consistent, the desire for seeking knowledge is something that we look for in most of our candidates. So we look for people, I know that, practically, especially when you are here, it's very difficult for people to get opportunities to do their masters or similar higher education. But definitely there are many opportunities for you to get certifications and take small courses, and also subscribe to newsletters and be current with what is happening in the industry, and the basic curiosity to know what's happening around you. You find that some people, they will be on site and there'll be so many things happening, and I would ask my one of my engineers and say, did you see what was happening on this side? And they'll say, no, that was mechanical, that's not my part, right? So similarly, this would happen to the other engineers too. So we tell them that there is project by definition is something that is unique, right? A project is something that has a start date, end date, and it has unique scope. So you'll never have anything in a project that is repetitive. So you will always come across new things every day, and each project would be different. So the more exposure you have, the more knowledge you have, you'll be able to learn from it and apply it into your different areas. So this desire, the hunger for knowledge, is one of the key things we look for in people. So I would ask somebody questions which are totally out of their, the scope or their expertise or area of qualification. And then we find out if they are interested to know it. Or is it somebody who says that it's not my job or it's not part of my scope? Or somebody would say, yes, I remember seeing something and I have some knowledge of it. So this is what we look for. And similarly now, unlike before, earlier, if you were a construction person, you had your only duty was to be able to construct whatever you're building on time, right? There was no obligation for you to have, your budget or your cost or the man hours you spend on it. Things are changing now. Now there is a bigger obligation on the construction team. You are responsible for managing your budget, the contract part of it. The schedule, of course, is part of it, and qualities and safety. So these are all. So you have a bigger responsibility as a person. And one of the key competencies or certification we look for is PMP, Project Management Professional. Right? So that applies to all across the board. It's about project management, being aware of how you manage risk, how do you manage finances, how do you manage scheduling. So it sort of covers a huge spectrum and applies to all disciplines. And this came about because each person or each project, they used to have a different definition of the terminologies that were being used. So when we say actual cost, for one individual, it's what is actually paid, and for other one is what is accrued. So there's a huge difference in that. So PMP sort of brought together all these lingo so that we speak the same language. And of course, depending on each discipline or your specialty, there are different certification that you could go for, and then organization which you could take membership, where you could continuously improve through newsletters or conferences and things like that.
Thanks, Mr. Nishad. So the job seekers in construction field, PMP is something which you can put as your milestone. One more thing which Mr. Nishad was talking about, the unknown, and COVID has been one unknown for us, for us in this last few months. And in Middle East, we were talking about the national visions of different countries for 2030, which was helping accelerating the infrastructural developments. Then the World Cup and Expo 2020 in Qatar and UAE respectively. All this has been affected, disturbed by the unknown, which is the COVID. So how do you see yourself? Because many of our people who are looking to find the light at the end of the tunnel. So how do you think it is going to change in the coming months?
Well, that's, I wish I knew, to be honest. So this is, again, this still remains an unknown. So there are, when you are faced with the situation, you can do two things. One is you can come sit and complain that, because of COVID, everything is ruined. And then, you assign the blame to a third party or a third, event. And then there's not, and it's not going to change anything, right? On the other hand, you can look at taking ownership. So this is something, the COVID is something I don't control, but what I do is what I control. Right? So you could take control of yourself and say, okay, during this situation, how do I make the best of it? So that is why you find, the glass half empty or half full. So having that positive attitude and having hope is one of the key things that as human beings you need to keep. Right. So if you are an optimist and you keep thinking about how do we get across these issues, how do I overcome the situation, and at the same time being a realist, saying that I cannot just hope everything will go well and just sit around and do nothing about it. Right? So how do I optimize my resources? How do I control my expenses? And during this time, how do I improve my skill sets? What is going to come, possibly going to come after COVID? What kind of projects will be coming open? So this is what you could do. So for example, right now we are in a situation in Qatar where the projects have opened up. We don't have people. Right, we're all running around trying to find people because the visas have not opened up. So once the visas have opened up, we're going to hire a huge number of people into the country. So if I were somebody looking for a job, I would be looking at, okay, which projects have been put on hold, and which are the critical projects that needs to go ahead. So because of the economic situation, you're not going to open up all the projects. You will be selective on what projects are going to be implemented. So because the resources are limited, you don't want to be opening up all the projects. So I would focus on those particular projects which are critical to the country, critical to the economy, and then which are the companies that are working on these particular projects, which sectors are they, and then what is the employment opportunities within that, what skill set are these companies looking for, and how do I align myself or train myself or increase my competencies so that I will be a better candidate for these particular companies. And that's what we would I would advise the candidates who are looking for an opportunity to do. But at the same time, do not be in this sort of lull and doom. Everything is gone. The whole economy, the world is ending. That is not going to help anyone, right? So always have this positive fighter attitude. You need to say that I'm a fighter. I will get through this. No matter what happens, life goes on, right? So that positive attitude is very important for all of us to survive this scenario. And at the same time, take proactive actions to improve yourself and put yourself in a position where you will be at a much better position than most of your competitors in securing a job.
Thanks, Mr. Nishad. Thanks for instilling confidence in our fellow members. The three key takeaways from this short discussion we had for me from your whatever you had shared. One is differentiating yourself, standing out from the crowd when you are applying for a job. The knowledge for hunger, and controlling the controllable, which is in our hand, which is controlling what we can do to improve the situation. These three things which will help each of us, which will make an employer say why I should hire a candidate, and instead of that, wow, my right candidate is there for you. So this is what you try to communicate. And now one point which in the discussion you were saying that you have requirements for people, but due to the visa restrictions you are not able to. So in case if you can share some of the requirements which you have, maybe we have some people in the group, so we can forward their their resumes to you as well. If you can share the requirements which you have in your group.
Yeah, definitely. We have posted on LinkedIn many of the positions, and I will share them with you. What are still open, and then I'll be happy to support whoever we can on these jobs.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Inshad. Thanks for your time. And, I think we will have our participants who will be having, asking questions. So I hand over to Dr. Sangeeth again, and, we will have the question and answer sessions. Thanks once again.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Brother Taha, for that crisply conducted session. And Brother Nishad, mashallah, it was music to our ears. Valuable insights presented so well. Mashallah, you're so articulate. And ideas are profound as well. I'm sure it would have really benefited the attendees. What happens is when you don't have a job and when you are headlong into the search, after a while, everyone, because there are no quick wins happening, people start feeling demotivated. So it's sessions like these where they can hear it directly from the horse's mouth, from the stallion's mouth. People have really made it big. Entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs, I'm sure it would have really guided and motivated our attendees as well. Quick look at my personal takeaways from Mr. Riaz. Know yourself. Are you an artist or are you a scientist? Are you cut out to be an artist or are you cut out to be a scientist? Love the metaphor. That'll stay with us for a long time. Do your research well. Thank you. We shall definitely do that. We use another model, a slightly different model, Mr. Riaz. We call it 70-20-10. But I think the whole point is make sure that you learn every single day. Learn by doing. Experience is the great teacher. Get feedback from people, look at mentors, and keep adding value onto yourself so that you add substantial value to your organization and business and grow in the process. And Brother Nishad, I think it was all about being agile. I think valuable information, your certificate definitely takes you to the door, but if you have to prevail and succeed and grow, then it's up to what you have within yourself and the attitude that you demonstrate every single day. So be agile, okay, be proactive. Ask yourself, how can I add value to my business every single day, and then proceed. And then finally, as you said, yes, things might not be very hunky-dory out there, not very rosy, but at the end of the day, focus on your area of influence, and you can definitely make a mark. Honored to have you both. Now to formally thank you and to handle the Q&A. If any of our attendees have questions, let me pass the mantle on to my sister. Sister Sheikha Sirin, please.
Hello, and thank you again for joining us, Mr. Nishad and Mr. Riaz. Rightly what Brother Sangeeth said, it was music to our ears because it was quite a lot of guidance. So let me start from Mr. Riaz. The metaphor, like Sangeetha mentioned, from being an artist to a scientist, that was new to me, and I think it was quite beautifully done. And the way you said the transition can take place, there can always be a movement from an artist to a scientist. So you don't have to stick. And if you identify where you are, you always can change and transform to another one. Or you could even be a collaborative in the future. So that is quite, giving you hope, saying there can be growth. Always there is space to grow. So well done. And I think and it was what I felt much about the whole session was, it was very much on to the people we see every day. So what they can do on a daily basis. So it is not about talking about articles and talking about, what people need to go and read. Rather, it's about what they can see every day and what can they do every day. So researching on their, on what portfolio they can do, and, having a kind of a research paper before you go to your interview, it is definitely going to be a winner, because that keeps you unique, that makes you completely different from other people. So I think whoever is looking for sales out there, and whoever is looking for opportunities as such out there, this is really a great advice, and I think they all should take it on board. And with your experience for so many years and telling us what you really can learn from courses, or what is not covered in curriculum, I think that's a brilliant way of telling people not everything comes on a course. And saying that the 60-20-20, for me, it's always 70-20-10. So 60 is definitely the big thing that you need to do. And if you're not on the job, I think these projects and those small researches is what 60 will consist of. So prepare yourself, and then, before you present yourself, have yourself well prepared. So thank you, Mr. Riaz, on that. And when I come to Mr. Nishad, I was stunned with the introduction already by our brother Taha. So I was already prepared for it. I like Sangeetha said, it was very crisp the way it was conducted. It was crispier and crunchier the way it was presented. Very, very much hands-on. It's talking about, I never knew, honestly, I never knew there was different sectors, so much elaborate under construction industry. So to have them reclassified for people to focus their attention, and then talking about what skills really you require. Because this is what people come and ask mostly, like, what are the skills in demand, and what should I have when I'm applying for this position? And it is easily for them to connect whether I have this and how do I build on it. So really thank you for bringing that on. And how to present your CV unique from others. I think we have mentioned in our previous session about ATS and how to make your CV identifiable for the computer so it reaches a human eye. So now from there, how to make yourself unique enough to attend an interview and take yourself forward. Many people have this idea about going for courses, having a certificate, and that makes it all. And people I have seen, even during pandemic, have invested a lot on doing a lot of courses. And it is a big learner that only takes you to the door. Whether you enter the industry, whether you enter a job, depends on what you carry on and what you actually bring as a person itself. So I think you do lead by example, and the idea of hunger for knowledge or desiring to grow your knowledge, I think that is brilliant, because that is what people need. And growing the right knowledge is very, very important, because you can have a supermarket and take a lot of things, but is that what you require for your recipe? So that is definitely a great insight. PMP, I think it's taken a lot of, what do you call it? People actually identify PMP to many things, but for people to know, you only need PMP if you are in the right industry. Not everybody need to go for that certification. So I think people who are looking for jobs after engineering into a construction industry, working on, I mean, having a PMP knowledge before a certificate, I think it's a knowledge, will be definitely great. It was very clear. We actually have, I think we should celebrate this moment when we have identified there is, when you have declared there are a few more positions open and it can be coming out through togetherness platform. I think we should celebrate this moment. You definitely said control the controllable, hunger for knowledge, and differentiating yourself is your main unique thing that you're looking for your interviewees or the candidates. And inshallah, I think within our community, like we mentioned in the beginning, we don't want this to grow, we want this to shrink. And it only shrinks when people are placed and people find their own, destination for now. They can have a journey later, but for now, destination as a job seeker or as an entrepreneur, this is what they require. So I think we are on time and we have not received much questions. I think the questions we had was already answered during the session already. This is a moment I think we all should take and say, well done to all of us. And I think thank you so much, Mr. Nishad. So and we are waiting for those positions to reach out to those people. So at least we know somebody uses what they have learned through the 3 sessions and bring it on, and you receive good CVs and you get the right person. So thank you, Mr. Riaz and Mr. Azim, for coming with us, coming on board with us and supporting people in the togetherness community. So thank you so much. And I hope we all have a good night.
We'll see you, inshallah. Thank you.